Why does everything feel so expensive in 2026? Groceries, rent, gas, restaurants, insurance, electricity, cars. Even a simple coffee feels like it costs more than it should. And the strange part is this. Governments and economists keep saying inflation is lower than before. But when normal people check their bank account, it does not feel lower. It feels like life has become permanently expensive. So what is actually happening? The answer is uncomfortable. Everything feels expensive because people are not just dealing with today's inflation. They are dealing with years of price increases that never fully went away. Most people think that when inflation goes down, prices should go down too. But that is not how inflation works. When inflation goes down, it usually means prices are still rising, just more slowly. So if groceries went from $100 to $130, lower inflation does not mean they go back to $100. It means they might go from $130 to $134 instead of $130 to $145. That is why the news can say inflation is improving, while your wallet says life is still expensive. Both can be true. Inflation can slow down, and prices can still remain painfully high. Think of it like climbing stairs. In the last few years, prices stepped up. Then they stepped up again. And again. And again. Now, even if the stairs are rising more slowly, you are still standing much higher than before. That is what people feel. They do not just feel the inflation rate. They feel the new price level. But inflation is only one part of the problem. The second reason everything feels expensive is housing. Housing is the center of the modern cost of living crisis. Because if rent or mortgage payments eat a huge part of your income, everything else feels more expensive too. A $5 coffee does not feel like just $5 when your rent already destroyed your budget. A $100 grocery bill does not feel normal when housing already took half your paycheck. This is why someone can have a decent salary and still feel broke. It is not always because they are bad with money. Sometimes the basic cost of shelter has become so high that the entire budget is under pressure before the month even begins. And then come high interest rates. Interest rates are the hidden price of money. When rates are high, borrowing becomes more expensive. Homes become harder to afford. Car payments become bigger. Credit card debt becomes more dangerous. Business loans become more costly. And many companies pass those costs to customers. So you feel higher rates everywhere. In your mortgage, in your rent, in your car payment, in your credit card, and sometimes even in the prices at the store. But here is where it gets worse. Many people are not just dealing with higher prices. They are using debt to survive those higher prices. Credit cards, auto loans, buy now, pay later, personal loans, medical debt. When income does not cover the cost of living, people often borrow. They put groceries on a credit card. They finance the car repair. They split payments into installments. And at first, this feels manageable. But over time, debt turns today's expensive life into tomorrow's even more expensive life. Because now you are not only paying for rent, food, gas, and bills. You are also paying interest on the money you borrowed to afford those things. That is how people get trapped. They are not just paying for this month. They are also paying for last month. And sometimes last year. Another reason everything feels expensive is shrinkflation. Shrinkflation is when you pay the same price, or even a higher price, but get less product. The bag of chips is more air. The cereal box is smaller. The chocolate bar gets thinner. The restaurant portion gets smaller. The subscription offers fewer features. You think you are paying the same, but you are getting less. That means your money has quietly lost power. And this is why people feel squeezed from every direction. Prices are higher. Value is lower. Debt is more expensive. And wages have not fully caught up for everyone. Now here is another hidden reason. Your brain compares prices to the past. You remember when groceries were cheaper. You remember when rent was lower. You remember when a fast food meal did not feel expensive. So every time you pay today's price, your brain compares it to yesterday's world. That is why expensive life feels emotional. It is not just math. It feels like something was taken from you. The same paycheck used to stretch further. The same job used to buy more. The same lifestyle used to feel normal. And now maintaining that same lifestyle feels harder. This is called loss of purchasing power. Purchasing power means how much your money can actually buy. If your income goes up 5%, but your rent, food, insurance, gas, and subscriptions go up 10%, you technically earn more money. But practically you are poorer. That is the quiet damage inflation does. It does not always make you poor overnight. It slowly weakens every dollar you have. So why does everything feel expensive in 2026? Because people are living with the aftershock of years of inflation. Because housing costs are still heavy. Because high interest rates make borrowing painful. Because debt is eating future income. Because shrinkflation reduced the value of what people buy. Because wages did not fully catch up. And because the economy in the headlines is not the same economy people feel in real life. Macroeconomics says inflation is a percentage. Real life says your grocery bill is too high. Macroeconomics says consumer spending is strong. Real life says some people are using credit cards to survive. Macroeconomics says the economy is growing. Real life says rent is due again. So what can regular people actually do? You cannot control inflation. You cannot control rent prices. You cannot control interest rates. But you can control your financial system. First, track where your money is actually going. Most people do not have a money problem, they fully understand. They have money leaks, subscriptions, food delivery, random fees, impulse purchases, interest payments. Second, protect your cash flow. Cash flow is the difference between what comes in and what goes out. In an expensive economy, cash flow is survival. Third, be careful with debt. Debt in a high-rate world is dangerous, especially credit card debt. It can turn a temporary problem into a long-term trap. Fourth, increase your earning power. Saving money matters, but cutting expenses has a limit. Income is more upside. Learning valuable skills, changing jobs, freelancing, or building a business can protect you from inflation better than simply hoping prices go down. And fifth, learn how money actually works. Inflation punishes people who do not understand assets, debt, interest rates, and cash flow. Most people are not broke because they are stupid. They struggle because nobody taught them the rules of money. So the next time someone says, inflation is lower now, remember this. Lower inflation does not mean life is cheap again. It just means prices are rising more slowly from a much higher level. That is why everything feels expensive in 2026. Not because you are imagining it. Not because you are bad with money. But because the price of modern life moved higher. And millions of people are still trying to catch up. This video is for educational purposes only, and is not financial advice. If you want to understand money, investing, and the economy in a simple way, subscribe to your economy teacher. Because everybody can become rich. But only if they learn how money really works.